Warning. This video and all other videos on this channel are for entertainment purposes only. The content of this video and all other videos on this channel are the opinions of the creator only and do not constitute legal, trading, investment, or financial advice of any kind. Investing carries a high level of risk and the majority of retail clients lose money. Do not invest any capital unless you understand the risks and you are prepared to lose it all.
Money makes the world go round, and the fairness is what happens. Will it keep turning? Let's find out.
Camel Finance, he's the man to see. Rocking the markets with his contrarian spree. Trades like a pro, no fear, no shame. Sticking to his guns in his money game. He's a badass, oh yes indeed. Camel Finance got the markets key. Taking us normies on a bumpy ride. Casting those emotions aside. Trendline breaks in sight. Managing the risk. Stop loss is just right, can't be missed. Blessing us with humor, memes every day. Exquisite laughs while he shows the way. Always chasing that 60-day cycle, no. Randos constantly saying, I told you so. A left translated cycle, most can't forgive. The only thing being sticky is a narrative. He's a badass, oh yes indeed. Camel Finance got the markets key. Taking us normies on a bumpy ride. Casting those emotions aside. What a time to be alive in so many ways. While the world goes to shit, he pushes his place. Milking the markets for all he's got with a smile. Stick around, you'll be here for a while. He's a badass, oh yes indeed. Camel Finance got the markets key. Taking us stormies on a bumpy ride. Casting those emotions aside.
Alright, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel and welcome to the week. Welcome to Monday. First of all, I have to say a massive thank you to Sheep Herder for the intro music. I absolutely love it and I hope you guys do as well. We have reached a significant milestone because we've now got a theme song. So yeah, I'm one happy camel. Today, I got a bunch of weird things to show you. They're kind of weird, they're kind of not. Let's get straight into it. I got this from Giovanni, who is the author of the Power Law, or I should say the discoverer of the Power Law for Bitcoin. But I would suggest to you guys, if we're just really objective, okay, if we're really objective, is one of these things not like the other? Okay, and I would argue that maybe this one is. Now, the most similar to this is probably this one here, where we had this double pump, right? And then the second pump. So all models are broken. This is probably better, maybe. Probably slightly more accurate than Plan B's model. It certainly predicts a lower top. I think this predicts a top of around 220k versus Plan B's, which is probably needing to be north of $500,000. But the reason I wanted to point this out is because my eye was drawn to this immediately. Because, like I said, one of these things is not like the other. If this continues, and of course we don't know if it will or not, but if this does continue, then it is going to look an awful lot like a left translated cycle. Now, of course, we could see a significant correction in the not too distant future, bring it back here, get a double pump. That would kind of be similar to that. And of course, we could go slightly higher first, then get this double pump set up and end up roughly back on track where we're supposed to be. But if it doesn't, then I think it's worth just making a note of that. If this continues straight up like this, okay, then it will be significantly different to the prior ones, apart from this one, and we don't know. We don't know if we're going to get this, okay, extended bear market into the lows, or if we're going to get that double pump, like I said. But I do think it's worth making a note of how different this one currently is. Whilst I'm here as well, I'm not convinced that this Power Law is going to pick the top very well. I know Giovanni is very confident in it, and maybe he's right. One thing I am quite confident about, though, is this will catch the lows. So I do expect it to catch the lows. I don't really expect it to catch the top or the timing of the top. But like I said, I thought it was kind of interesting. My eye was immediately drawn to this. So let me know what you think. There's another visualization here of practically the same thing. And you can see that we're not even into the red dot territory yet. So one, there probably is still room for more upside. But two, if this thing doesn't cool off, okay, and we just start going red from here, then we are going to probably reach that target or even exceed it way ahead of schedule, right? Way ahead of schedule. And again, if it starts to look like this, from my perspective, we'll have more confidence in this whole idea of the left translated cycle, the extended bear market, and eventually we'll be targeting back down at these lows here to go back to full exposure, having hopefully exited somewhere close to the top. But again, you know, this looks, unless it turns into this, right? which it probably won't do. There's structural reasons I've shown multiple times before why this cycle is nothing like this, largely because we didn't retest this range. We just left it, whereas every other time we built a range, back tested it, built a range, back tested it. So there's no real technical reason to come back like this and thus replicate this situation here. So I think, like I said earlier, one or two things is going on. Either we're on our way to a left translated cycle and extended bear market, or if you don't like that idea, then perhaps the double pump is in play as well. I really don't want a double pump or a left translated cycle because this is way harder to deal with, right? If we do get some kind of pop up here, by the time we've seen a pullback, we won't know whether or not we should be buying this, looking for a double pump to a right translated cycle, or whether any kind of bounce here will just be immediately faded, roll over, and be on our way to those 4-year bear market lows. So this whole double pump thing, way harder to deal with than a right translated cycle. If it's left translated with an extended bear market, which is what it looks like to me, that's even more difficult to deal with. So again, just be aware. Just be aware where we are. Understand what's easier to deal with, what isn't. I would much rather be invalidated here and see this. That would be way easier to deal with. And I know sentiment out there is getting pretty bearish. I know people are getting pretty tired, pretty worn out by the sideways grinding and chopping. But there is some historical price action changes for Bitcoin happening right now. You are currently looking at the first breakout against M1 money supply since back in March 2017, when it historically went parabolic for 9 months. So instead of Bitcoin priced in dollars, we are now pricing it in the M1 money supply. And what you'll notice is, unlike M2, Bitcoin did not break out against M1 all throughout the past 6 to 7 years. So believe me, this is significant. Bitcoin has only seen blow off tops after breakouts against the M1 money supply. Remember, we didn't get a blow off top here. Now, I should say actually, I think we did. For me, I think it depends how you define it. If I can draw 3 increasing angles of attack, right? 1, 2, and then 3. It's kind of difficult on a 2-month chart, but you get the point, right? For me, that's a blow off top. If we get 3 increasing angles of steepness and the last one is near vertical and then it breaks down, I'd consider that a blow off top. But I guess the point here is this was far less parabolic and far more distributive in nature. And at least TechDev here, I believe, is making the argument that that is because we did not break out against the M1 money supply like we did versus M2. And so, versus the M1 money supply, we have consolidated for a very, very, very long time. And thus, this breakout of the hard right edge, again, tells us to keep an open mind about seeing much higher, much more near vertical price action out of Bitcoin walking forward. Just for context, just for reference, I think it's important to point this out. Here is Bitcoin priced in M2 or M2SL, and you can see the chart looks more or less the same as the dollar chart, right? So hopefully now you can understand that against M1, this is not nothing. Very, very significant action at the hard right edge. Tells us to keep an open mind about seeing something like this that Kushi here is suggesting we might see very, very shortly. That would be potentially a big break above the prior all-time high level, a big parabolic advance. And notice it would be ahead of schedule, ahead of what most people are anticipating, ahead of when the power law predicts, ahead of what the Plan B stock to flow model predicts, and would be far more characteristic of a left translated cycle than a right one. Of course, we could always come back and double pump. Who knows, right? One day at a time. But for now, I remain cautiously optimistic unless we break down. All the while we are building a base or creeping higher, then I remain cautiously optimistic. I showed this fractal here from Nesty, and you can see, right, we are thinking about breaking out. And if we do, this structure at the bottom, which is today's, or I should say this cycle's price action, okay, very, very similar to these ones. I showed that before. The only component that's missing here is a breakout. So if we can get that soon, again, tells us to keep an open mind about better than expected outcomes. If we zoom in a little bit more, this breakout might just be a blink away. Again, 2017 at the top, right? Spring, come up here, chop around, go. What have we got in 2021? The spring, up here, chop around, go. And what have we got today? We got the spring, up here, chop around. Okay, this is the only component that's missing. So it doesn't need to happen, but sometimes when we find ourselves in these situations, I think it's good to ask yourself the question, okay, if you're bearish and we do this, will you be able to look back at this moment and say, nobody could have seen that coming, right? Or will you be able to look back at this and say, actually, yeah, that was really obvious. That was really, really obvious. And you can do it the other way, okay? If we say, okay, I'm bullish, but the price does this, will I be able to look back in time and say, that was obvious? Would that have been something nobody could see coming? I always think it's good to ask yourself these types of things. Again, open to being proven wrong. If we roll over, we'll deal with that as it comes. But for now, like I said, I remain cautiously optimistic until the market proves me wrong. And it's not just Bitcoin that is setting up for bullishness, because Ethereum is also showing a structure that, if it were to repeat, again, would imply much, much higher prices in the not too distant future. And for those of you that are always asking me, Camel, when alt season, when altcoins, well, take a look at this. It's been 2 years in the making, but it looks like the next major altcoin rally is just around the corner. Are you ready? Again, this is one of those charts where I think if I ask myself the question honestly, okay, if this happens next, we will be able to look back and say, nobody could have seen that coming, or will we be able to look back and say, to be honest, that was pretty obvious? Now, to me, even though I am not an altcoin guy, even though for the most part I have not been expecting a broad altcoin season, I am able to look at this chart and say, to be honest, this seems far more likely than this. So again, it is to be determined. The market needs to prove that. If it starts to trade down, something else is going on. But if it starts to do this, okay, then we'll be able to look back and say, well, yeah, that was pretty obvious. One or two more things to point out. I've been meaning to cover this and I just keep forgetting, but the US banks are currently sitting on massive unrealized losses, okay? The unrealized losses the banking system is currently sitting on has increased to 517 billion as of Q1. So this is not nothing. This is what happens when you're the Fed and you tell the banks to buy a bunch of bonds and promise them you won't raise rates, only to weeks later embark on the most aggressive, fastest rate hiking cycle the world has ever seen, forcing all of those banks that are holding those bonds to sit on massive unrealized losses. Also, those banks hold quite a lot of commercial real estate, which of course find it much, much harder to service the mortgage loans once we are in a high interest rate environment. Banks are not in a good way. They're in a good way only until people come knocking at the door and ask them for their money back, which of course forces them to realize these unrealized losses and exposes just how insolvent and over leveraged these banks are. So have you got your exit? Have you got something outside of the system that carries no counterparty risk? And then just before we hop into a couple of charts, this week's got a bunch of key events, okay? We got ISM manufacturing PMI data today. We've got the JOLTS on Tuesday, non-farm employment on Wednesday, more ISM manufacturing data on Wednesday as well, and more jobs data on Friday. This week, it really is all about employment data. And of course, that employment data, by the time we get to the weekend's deep dive, should make for a very interesting review. Are we going to continue to see unemployment creep up? Okay, which is what my analysis suggests is in play. If that is the case, then that tells me we are getting very, very close to this recession triggering. It will be really, really interesting as well to see if we continue to see slowdown in the economy as a result of some of this manufacturing data. So it's going to be interesting, right? It's going to be a very, very big week. Of course, when we hop into the charts, not a great deal has changed since the weekend, okay, since it's Monday morning. It's only 9 a.m. GMT here at the moment. So first of all, thinking about breaking down, hasn't done it yet, okay? Let's see if it can for the DXY. Gold hunting for that swing right in the timing window to see one. So the big question is, how big is the push out of here? If it's big, long and strong, and we'll see what the market can give. If it's a small, perhaps a lower high, little bounce and a fade and a rollover, I will be cutting this position and getting ready to reallocate at the weekly cycle low. Silver, the thing I'm looking for is, even though we've wicked this $30 level, can we hold above? We really need to. Bitcoin catching a little bit of a green candle, nothing to write home about, still very much sideways as you can see. But again, as per everything I've said today, open to seeing further upside until proven otherwise. So what a wild time to be alive. As ever, I'll do my best to keep staying on top of this, but until the market shows us something, we don't really know. I'm your boy Camel, I hope you're doing well in life, and until next time, take care from me, all the best, cheers, bye.
So Camel Crew, keep calm and carry on, pushing those trades long and strong. Left trade, it's cycle theory, moving in place. Double hump daddy, set the pace. What a time to be alive, so many ways. While the world goes to shit, he pushes his place. Milking the markets for all's got with a smile. Stick around, you'll be here for a while. What a time to be alive in so many ways. While the world goes to shit, he pushes his place. Milking the markets for all's got with a smile. Stick around, you'll be here for a while. What a time to be alive in so many ways. While the world goes to shit, he pushes his place. A left translated cycle, most can't forgive. The only thing being sticky is a narrative. What a time to be alive. pushes his place. Milking the markets for all it's got with a smile. Stick around, you'll be here for a while. What a time to be alive in so many ways. While the world goes to shit, he pushes his place. Milking the markets for all it's got with a smile. Stick around, you'll be here for a while.